Welcome to Bunkertown. On this week's show, we discuss the Memorial Championship, Denny McCarthy's tough finish, and Viktor Hovland coming up big. We then welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Butterbean to the show to talk about his pro golf career and what's next for the Bean. Finally, we'll close things off with previewing my home tournament, the Canadian Open, as well as answering some fan questions and giving our bogeyed plays of the week. I'm joined this week by Nolan and Reid. Zach has no voice after his intense bachelor party, and he is sitting this one on the sidelines. But let's get right into it.
Oh boy, look where he's hit it. This is serious.
This is hard to watch.
You know, building sandcastles in the sand.
What happens is you have this sense of embarrassment.
That's a shank. He decided to re-tee. That's a shank. Oh, man.
But I'm surprised he mishit it that badly. Wow.
All right, fellas, Jack's tournament turned out to be a huge success. It wasn't the 13 to 16 under we may thought it would be, but 72 holes wasn't enough, and it took Viktor Hovland one more to take down Denny McCarthy, who was chasing win number one on the PGA Tour. After talking about him a lot last week, Hovland, who we even questioned if he'd win before Rickie Fowler, came out victorious. So, Nolan, is it fair to say Viktor, after coming top 10 in each of the last three majors and now winning at this week's elevated event with the best players in the world, is he a top 5 player in the world?
I wouldn't quite say that. His game might currently be that of a top 5 player in the world, but he doesn't have the accolades to stack up against these other top 5 players in the world. The Jon Rahms, the Rory McIlroys, the Scottie Schefflers. So not quite, but he's playing like it, right? Like you said, I think it's even 7th or better in the last couple majors since the 2022 Open. Hasn't missed a cut since then, and that's an incredible run. You gotta hand it to him. Viktor came out victorious. We've been talking about him. He's been knocking on the door a lot lately. It's impressive. The T3 at the Players even. He gets a big win at the Memorial. Yeah, I mean, impressive. He hung in there on Sunday. It was a tough Sunday, a tough tournament all week. He struggled early in that Sunday round and fought back into it and was able to post a score, and it turned out good for him.
It's actually laughable that we were talking about that last week. And I was the jackass who said that Rickie Fowler would win before Hovland. But I will say, when you get a tournament where it's 7 under, you're going to have a lot more guys in the mix because it's going to be a lot tighter bunched, right? There's going to be a lot more pars made. There's not as many birdie made. It's a lot harder to make a birdie than it is just to make a par, as we all know, right? And so that being said, I was kind of pulling for McCarthy just because I'll tell you a little story. I was caddying on the PGA Tour, and his current caddy used to caddy for McCarthy. Keep that in mind. Denny fired him, and it might have been a couple months, 3-4 months, and you saw his caddy back on the bag. And I think that gives you a telltale sign of how important it is to be comfortable on the golf course with the one you're going to spend 40 hours a week with, just like a regular work week. So I only say that I was kind of pulling for McCarthy just because I think it would have been a kind of cool story. That being said, Hovland played great, finished great. Even that lie in the playoff there was gnarly against that rough cut line there. That can get the heel stuck on the ground and turn the toe over real quick.
Yeah, you could see him and his caddy like having a conversation about that lie, and it was almost like he took a couple practice swings like right along that first cut line too, just to kind of feel it out. That was pretty cool, a little interaction to see between the two guys there on a really pressure situation. You don't want you want to be in the fairway, not in a divot, not up against a collar. And of course, that's how he ran into it. He's a great ball striker though, so I don't think he was too worried about it. Can we also keep talking about Viktor here a little bit? The dude wins the biggest tournament of his career, right? And what is he doing Monday morning on the longest day in golf? He's out there with his ex-teammate at Oklahoma State caddying for him at a US Open qualifier event. I mean, schlepping around the bag, He's got the rangefinder out. What a guy, right? That's an ultimate friend right there.
I think he comes off as a great guy, and that just showed it, following winning 3.6 million, the biggest tournament of your life, all that stuff. But he was nails on Sunday. He kind of knew it was odd because Scheffler kind of took that clubhouse lead at -6, I believe, and everyone kind of knew that was the number they were chasing.
I was looking pretty good for a while.
Yeah. And it was weird because it was like Hovland's thought was, I just need to get to 6, possibly 7. And then McCarthy was like, I just need to stay above 6. So they both were kind of playing against that number. And then Hovland with that birdie on 17, an absolute bomb. It was the first birdie of the day on 17, which, Reid, is something we talked about, is those long bombs. That sometimes is the difference of the tournament. That was it for him. Whereas the other thing we've been talking about the last few weeks on the show is guys not closing out when it comes down on the last day or the last few holes, or even just the last hole, which we saw not too long ago, the last few weeks on the PGA Tour. And it happened again. McCarthy couldn't hold on, forcing the playoff. And then it was McCarthy had a bad lie, and then Hovland just had to two-putt, but it was no easy two-putt. That last putt on the end to win it, it was still a little bit of a wiggly right to left par putt, and he was able to make it. I thought it was a great ending. As I mentioned, golfers coming up and down. So I'm happy for Hovland. As I mentioned, I was one of the ones that picked Hovland over Fowler to get the next win. So good for him. But you're right. I felt bad for McCarthy at the end too, not being able to get the win. He seemed so emotional in the interview.
How bad was that tee shot McCarthy hit on 18 in the playoff? I mean, dude, that had to have been 45, 50 yards off his target line. Just knowing that hole and where he was and where he should have been looking and probably was looking, that had to have been at least 40 yards offline. You saw that lie, and I was surprised that he got that much club on it. Honestly, I thought when he was walking up to the ball, and you only can tell so much from TV coverage, but I thought it was going to be a hack out 60 yards and trying to get it up and down from whatever the number would have been. You know what I mean? 130 or.
I mean, that ball disappeared when you saw it on the sky cam, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing how that golf course is playing, you can only help but think that ball is just going to sink to the bottom. But one thing I have to say about Muirfield, they've made some changes over the year for the better. Changed the golf course to be more fair, but also challenging in the same respect. I think there's a fine line between those two. But they got to do something with 16. 16 it's getting to the point where you should have an opportunity to hit a good golf shot. And if you don't have an opportunity, I would say, I don't want to put quantifications on it, but if, you can't make birdie or at least get a decent look 1 out of 10 times, 2 out of 10 times, it's probably not a very good golf hole.
On Saturday, they had the pin in the front right, and you couldn't hit a cut into it, and you couldn't hit a draw into it. So guys were just hitting straight line right into the bunkers and hoping to make a sand save for the par. Stick around for my bogey of the week because it does involve 16 as well. But I thought the course played well except for that hole. It looked well. It was challenging. As mentioned, it wasn't the 4 under per round that we thought about. And it gave some of the big names trouble throughout the week. And one of the guys I wanted to mention, we briefly talked about him, was Scottie Scheffler, who just made the cut on the number and then went lights out on the weekend. I think about 10 under on the weekend, setting the clubhouse lead, but not being able to pull it off. We've talked about possibly some putting struggles. Should Scottie be worried, Nolan, about the way he's putting, or is he setting himself up for possibly a great summer and some major titles over the next month?
Possibly some putting struggles. I mean, dude, this guy is blind out there. He is absolutely wrecking golf courses. And you know what? There's a difference between a golf swing. They call it a golf swing and a putt stroke, right? They're two different things. You can be so good at putting and terrible at the golf swing and amazing at the golf swing and terrible at the putt stroke. You see the guys on, I think Tiger Woods is announced today, a little pop stroke championship. There's just some everyday average those guys who just light up the greens, right? They figured it out. They know how to read greens. They know how to make the same stroke every time. Scottie has not quite figured that out, man. If Denny McCarthy was putting for Scottie this week, Scottie shoots 26 under and wins by 19 strokes. Insane. If he had a 0 strokes gained putting effort this week, he would have still won the tournament by 8 strokes. He's abysmal on the greens, and it's trending. It's not a here and there thing. It's happened this whole year. I think when he's won with a negative strokes gained putting this year. So he's got the game to back it up. But dude, if you want to be an all-time great, you got to figure out something with that flat stick.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Nolan. But I will say, or I will question anyway, can someone be a good enough ball striker and still win a lot of tournaments because there's such good ball strikers and you can only miss so many putts from 10 feet? You know what I mean? Like if you hit it to 10 feet and you have, and this is a lot, let's say you have 12 10-foot looks in a round. I mean, you got to make 4 of them, you would think.
Scottie went 0 for. He went 0 for on everything outside of 10 feet. Scottie didn't make the entire 72 holes.
I just think that wouldn't be an every week. I mean, yes, it happens. You know what I mean? But it's weird to think about. Like the guy is arguably the best player in the world, and he's abysmal. What people say makes golf. Mm-hmm. I mean, are we seeing something that's never been seen before? Someone is so good at ball. I mean, I'm trying to think of someone who is such a good ball striker and that was so high up in the world, but was such a bad putter for a lengthened period of time.
Like if he just figures this out, is he going to win the US Open or the British Open by 5 strokes because now he's got both sides of the game, or 9 if he had made a few putts like we were talking about? It was a weird week for Scottie, as mentioned, struggled Thursday and Friday, but made the cut. You know, then he's early in the clubhouse with the leader. He goes on the broadcast. As the leader, he's on the broadcast. It's not just an interview. They're like, hey, why don't you stick around and call some golf with us? I thought that was so odd because he might have been in a playoff. And then he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go back to our house and shower and pack and everything. He didn't even stick around. And it came so close to possibly him having to get back in the car, get to the course. There was a moment where I was like, imagine this guy gets on the private bird and he's just about to go wheels up and they're like, oh, by the way, you're tied with Hovland. And he's like, just give it to him. I'm good. Give me second place. I'm already on my way home.
That would have been incredible. I saw that exact same thing where, he's like, I'm probably going to go home, pack up and get ready to get out of here. Dude, he was only, I think he was only 2 back at that point. I think McCarthy was at 8.
Yeah.
I don't even know if anyone else was even at 6, because Hovland even dipped down to 5 at one point.
Yes, he did.
So like he was like in second with one guy a double bogey away with 3 of the like hardest closing holes on a golf course, 16, 17, 18. Those things are no joke. Hovland made 2 birdies on 17 this weekend, and that was like a 3-stroke gain on the field because I think that was playing like a half stroke over par over the weekend. So that putt on 17 was huge. And I think we've talked about it before, but you make a putt like that on Thursday, no one really cares about it, but they're all worth the same, right? And you see it on 17 on Sunday and you're like, that's the biggest moment ever. But I mean, Scottie's excellence is unquestioned. Let me just rattle off his appearances since November: 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 11th, 10th, 4th, win, 4th, 12th, win, 11th, 7th, 2nd, 9th, 3rd. I mean, that's all world class. He's got an incredible game to be buoying up this poor putting streak he's on. I think he could very well turn it around at least. Maybe he's never going to be a positive strokes gained putter, but if he can get anywhere near 0, then watch out for this guy.
I mean, I know he's been playing good golf, but I didn't realize it was like that. I mean, you watch for a couple weeks and this guy finished 3rd, 5th, 2nd, but you don't really add up that many weeks in a row. Holy crap, man. That's, I know it's not Tiger and wins, but I mean, consistency, you think Ted Scott's doing all right on his bag?
How about our boy Kevin with a great one? 10 chances. Who are you taking? Shaq with 10 free throws or Scottie with 10 10-footers?
Oh, sheesh.
It seemed like putting was the theme of the weekend. I noticed Matsuyama, he's kind of got a new putting ritual. He's taking a long time over the ball before putting, and it seems to be throwing him off. He was one of those guys that was climbing but couldn't get into the hunt on Sunday. Then Siwoo Kim, he's got a new putting stroke. It's the long broom putter, but with the claw at the bottom. I've never seen that. He was hitting some putts, but it's just a weird looking thing. And then, of course, our boy Rory just struggling, but kind of in the mix, but can't hold on to it. He's got the lead. He's in the final group on Sunday. Nothing's working for him. His putting's not there. He gets 2 6s on the par 5 on Sunday, 3 bogeys in a row on the back 9, and his tournament's over. It's win or bust for Rory, and he can't seem to close. Where are we at with Rory's game right now with 2 majors left? And those are the main factors for him.
I checked out after the first bogey on the par 5, and then I tuned back in, and he makes another bogey on a par 5. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? You're the best driver in the game of golf. You should have prime position going into these par 5s, and he laid up on both of them, right? And made bogeys with wedges, flying, airmailing the green. Like, come on, Rory, Gosh, that was so disappointing. Again, I thought he might run away with it, right? We see Rory on the top of the leaderboard come Sunday. Oh, that's his tournament to go and win. And he fell completely out of contention. He wasn't even on the little front page of the leaderboard.
Even Jack was like, maybe he needs to lay off on the long distance drivers and work on his short game. So, yeah, something's not right with Rory. It seems like it might be a little bit in his head, but it's not the same player that we've seen.
Speaking of Jack, what about that comment he made about his caddy from back in the day? He just wanted a caddy that would, what do you say? Show up, suit up, and shut up. Something like that.
Show up, shut up, and keep up.
Yeah, that's what it was. Jack, what are we doing?
Do you want to get into this? Because I'm probably getting hate mail coming my way about my Michael Block take last week. But do you want me now to bash on Jack Nicklaus, the king of golf, the guy who's got the most majors? I mean, he was brutal on the air on Saturday. He was bragging about himself, and he's like, oh, I made a few 2s on this course in my day, and as guys were putting it into bunkers and putting it in rough and shooting it in the water, he was all over the place. He told the Tom Weiskopf story on Saturday. I'm not sure if you heard this, but they're honoring him next year at the Memorial. So that's nice. I'm sure Tom Weiskopf's family's watching, and they're like, oh, Jack's going to talk about him. And Jack says, and I quote, Tom isn't really remembered as a great golfer, and that's mostly my fault because every time he had a chance to win, he couldn't beat me. Are you kidding me, Jack? You're ripping the guy down as you're about to honor him? He is ruthless on these telecasts.
I mean, they say that people get more grouchy when they get older. I mean, it's starting to show. I wasn't alive when Jack was in his prime, but I can only imagine he was a little more down to earth and cordial, but I mean, some of the shit he's been saying, it's like, Jack, just don't say that, and you'd probably be better off, man. Like, just keep it to yourself. Even if you think that, just like you told your caddy, shut up.
Yeah,
he's getting that old man mentality where he doesn't really care what anybody thinks about what he says. Unfortunately, I think that happens to the best of them, even the Golden Bear. But I was trying to look up if any of Jack's caddies are alive today. They're all gone, unfortunately. I was just like, that'd be great to get on the podcast, one of Jack's caddies. But
he loves this tournament. Of course, it's his. He's a founder. He loves the course. It's his course. He makes all the changes. He's the architect behind the changes, and he loves saying, "Oh, this should be an easy shot." When he damn well knows it's not going to be an easy shot. The player's not going to not make the shot. He's going to end up in trouble, but Jack wants to say it's an easy shot before he puts it in there. But Nolan, I got to ask you, as a Tiger guy, are you kind of against Jack?
Yeah, I'm not a huge Jack supporter by any means. He's trying to protect his legacy in some sort of way. Just I've got this amazing tournament. I want to remind you guys all how great of a golfer I was. Give my little insights of what might be a good shot, what might be a bad shot, and what might be an easy shot, and then set up these players for failure essentially. But yeah, as a Tiger guy, I'm all pro Tiger and kind of pretty neutral on Jack. I wouldn't say I necessarily dislike the guy, but the caddy disrespect is not cool. I think if you look at player and caddy interactions where you can maybe talk to this a little better, obviously, but if you get a little heated in the heat of the battle, so to speak, and I think that's okay, but you got to have your guys back when you go to talk to the media or behind the scenes stuff like that in front of other players. It's going to happen on the course where you get in a disagreement, but the real strength there is if when you come off the course you're all level-headed and you agree that either you were wrong or agree to disagree kind of thing. Jack just seems to really not care and just think you're just here to carry my bag and I'm going to read all my putts, I'm going to make all the putts, and thanks for getting my yardages, sir.
So here's my thing is, and obviously I caddied out there for a little while, and my thought on all of that and players that just want a bag carrier per se. Your check is my money too. So why would I not do everything in my nature before the golf tournament to prepare? And if I'm giving you information, it's because I've either walked off the yardage or I've rolled the putt or I've whatever. I've stepped it off over this ridge and that ridge is 9 over the bunker, whatever it is. So why? I realize that sometimes you don't want a caddy clubbing you because maybe it's just more of a feel player. I get that, but why can we not take into account and use your resource of someone who is going to dig into as much information as they can and probably isn't going to give you information if they're unsure about it? You know what I mean? If they're unsure about something or unsure about how something's going to release off a hill or where it's going to be, or if it's, where the wind is, they're going to steer you a different direction. That's going to be a little more cautious, I guess you could call it. Right. So, and the way caddies do that, they're not going to cautiously say, well, I think you should do this. No, it's, we're hitting it here. This is the number. This is the line. We're hitting it here. This is the shot. So, I mean, you got to think about it as a player, a PGA Tour player is already feeling enough stress. Why not let your caddy take some of that off your back?
All right, this is a big guest for the Bunkertown crew, someone we've been wanting to have on for quite some time. And there's no better person to introduce him than our boy, Reid Martin, who has firsthand experience with our guest. So, Reid, tell us about how you met him and a little bit more about your experience being out on the course with him.
I got to preface it, and I'll preface it, and I'm going to give you a little detail because how it all played out was hysterical, man. So we signed up for the Monday qualifier in Alabama. And obviously a final field list comes out and I'm looking down the list and we both just bust out laughing because there's a guy named Butterbean. I'm like, we started making, assumptions on, what Bean would be like. Would it be a good golfer or, just anything. And so day comes, tournament comes, we're warming up and we're sitting there warming up and we're looking around and we're trying to figure out who Butterbean is. And this guy comes rolling up to the putting green with smoking a dart and just looks like the most relaxed person in the world. And we didn't even think anything of it. We get to the tee, and sure enough, Butterbean Orlando Merced, or I should say Orlando Merced Butterbean being the nickname, showed up to the tee, and he was an absolute legend. We had the most fun on the golf course I think I might have ever had. I watched Butterbean shoot 42-32 or something like that, 42-33.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I shot 74 for the day after starting like 6 over through the first 4, just like never missed the ball right, balloon it out right, first hole, first swing. I'm like, all right. It's just going to be one of those days. And then, we just settled into the round, obviously, and had a good time.
Just Tiger Woods at the 97 Masters, man. The 40-30. That's exactly the Butterbean.
You got to have a strong comeback, It's never good, right? Whenever you blow your load, right? The first 9, and then you're like dipping it in on a 43. You're like, Jesus.
Hey, take us back. Like, how did you, before we even get into golf and all that, how'd you get the nickname Butterbean?
So Butterbean kind of originally started, my stepfather, Russell, gave me the nickname as a young child, still to this day, actually, for the last, 20 years. My name in his phone has been Butterbean. I told it to my caddy Dawson one time, and he's kind of close with my family, and dude, it just kind of was rousing me about it, and like, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna kind of own it one day, and I was sitting in the blue golf, and I'm like, you know what, no one's ever gonna see this, and so I'm gonna put Butterbean in there just because, one day, whenever it pops off, people are gonna think it's hilarious, and so I did it, right? And the first tournament I did it was a Canada Monday, like the last Canada Monday of the year of last year, in Minnesota. Same, I don't want to say indicative round, but almost indicative round. Got a little squirrely on the front, made like I think double on 9 from the woods, found the ball, hooked it into the ever living shit, chipped it out right and made it, and ended up making like 6 or 7 birdies though to shoot even par and to come in like tied 30th or tied 27th or something like that in the Monday. And it was just kind of funny, because they gave me a little love because I drove the green, made eagle. It was just like on the back 9. It was like one of those things, and it kind of stuck ever since then. Now that don't be surprised whenever you see the bean on the leaderboard and he's towards the top.
Hey, before we get too far, I have to talk about one of our conversations on the golf course, too, because I've never laughed so hard on a golf course in my life.
All right.
So I start, we're walking down, I don't know, whatever fairway. It was early in the round. Let's call it 3-4 holes in, and start talking to the bean a little more. And long story short, he starts talking about his kids and his wife, and he starts calling his kids bean sprouts and, and everything, that started coming out, talking about pinto beans and all that kind of stuff. And then we started talking about how can we get a logo for the bean. You have to, if you have a name Butterbean, you have to have a logo. So you got to tell them your idea about your logo, Butterbean.
Yeah. So, if any of the listeners are good, right, at digital, let me know. But basically, I'm thinking it's like a pinto bean cowboy with a mustache riding a stick of butter.
Yes.
And I think I need it logoed on everything, to be quite honest with you.
Are we saddled or are we raw?
I mean, you could bareback the butter.
Yeah.
You could bareback the butter. I mean, that would be a possibility. It might be better.
You might slide off though. I don't know. That's tricky there.
You never know. It gets a little slippery. I mean, that's how golf is though, I mean.
Is that your game? Are you a high, low kind of golfer? You're going for everything. You're aggressive. What kind of golf game do you got, Butter?
So to be honest, right, I've tried, right? I've been on this journey a couple years now, and when you're playing, I think early and you're kind of new to everything, and you don't really know anybody, you're kind of playing tight. But I think realistically in the last year and a half, it's just trying to be as loose as possible, as free as possible. Send it. Like, I'm a go for it person, If you come to Florida and you play anybody around here that knows me, they'll tell you that I'm the 5-foot master because I will run every putt 5 foot by. Because if I'm not making it, it's just one of those things.
Never up, never in.
You never go for it, you're never going to get it. So you might as well send it 100% of the time. I'm hitting it through the smallest gap in the tree. I'm trying to do the most I can do from wherever I'm at.
And where did you kind of get into falling in love with golf? Was it in high school? Did you start playing competitive then, or was it until a little bit later? What really brought you to golf? I'm sure you're super athletic and there was other sports calling your name, but why golf?
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball, football, and golf, growing up. But realistically, so I was 6 years old. I got into golf at 6 years old. My stepdad was pretty big in that. Dude, I've started no lessons. Just give the kid a club, hit it up the center, go find it, keep doing it again. And just as long as you're grooving it in the back, you're good. To be honest with you, I'm still on that same philosophy still. When I play my best golf, dude, I'm sending it. But no, as a junior, I was a high ranked junior golfer up until the age of 13, 14. I played all sorts of national tournaments, and then to be honest with you, right, I kind of got into high school. I started running with some people. I played my freshman sophomore year, number one position after 3 weeks freshman year, overtook the senior to play number one at a 5A high school.
Was this in the Orlando area or?
No, this was in South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I grew up in Granger, Indiana. Went to Penn High School.
Wow.
And played there for the Kingsmen, and had a lot of great memories there. But it golf's something that kind of saved my life, to be honest with you, later on down the road. I played baseball in college, and to be honest with you, there was always something kind of missing. After school, I was in sales for 4 years, made really good money. And, at the time it was my wife and I were just dating. And honestly, we were sitting there watching a shot Jordan Spieth was hitting at like a US Open. It's like an open face flop shot to like, honestly, a pretty receptive green. It wasn't even like it was running away that bad. And I'm like, and he hit a good shot. And I'm like, I could totally do that. And she was like, well, why don't you go do that? And I was just like, all right, well then, so we saved up some money and we made the ultimate move. And 5 years later, we're basically here. We got 2 beautiful children, and it's been wonderful.
Good for you.
It's been a ride. It's not for the faint of heart. That's one thing I can tell you. Anybody that's thinking about playing professional golf, make sure you're ready to come with it, because I'm telling you, these boys aren't letting up and they won't stop. So, you better settle in quick.
Everyone wonders what professional golf is like, and obviously you and I met doing it.
Yeah, we did. The tour life is real.
The tour life is real. Tell us and tell the listeners, what does it take? Why do people make it to the PGA Tour and stay there, and why do some never get there?
Everybody I play with on a weekly that I've played with, that have multiple PGA Tour wins. I mean, I have multiple friends with multiple, and to be honest with you, I think it's just the tenacity of it, right? It's the grit of not giving up and never counting yourself out, and always giving yourself that chance. But I mean, realistically, Reid, you and I both know, it's, you have one good week, one good day shows up for you on just the right time, and you're in the tournament, and you put together 2 decent days of even par to 3 under, and next thing you know, you made the cut and your career's totally changed. But how many, I have friends that have 2-3 PGA Tour wins, and they don't even have status right now. And that's, I think the PGA Tour could do a little reevaluation on some things, but that's not for me to decide. But I think, you need to be able to go 5 to 7 under every day to play with the boys.
That's interesting what you're saying. You think they should reevaluate. You think like if you win on the PGA Tour, maybe you should have a longer exemption or something like that, because it's such an impressive feat to do, and it's hard to see these guys like fall out of the PGA Tour status even after they've won. Or what were you going with there?
Yeah, so my whole thing about it is like, some of these guys have 2 or 3 PGA Tour wins, and as of right now, right, they don't even have Korn Ferry status. Like they and they're pretty comfortable, to be honest with you. Like they're not like, right, they're not hurting for money. Like they got their house, they got their wife, they got their kids. Like they're pretty set. But if you realistically look at everything across the PGA Tour board, right, you only have like 125 guys holding a card at each level, and that's only at like 6 different things. It's not even 1,000 people out of the world that even get a chance to play. And as Reid knows, dude, I play with people in a mini tour in Florida that have either a PGA Tour win or whatever, but they have no status, and there's literally right next to me, and it's like we're playing for the same $10,000 check, and it's just kind of like, what's going on here? Why? They want to grow the game, right? And they want that to be part of it, but they don't even hand out 10% on a Monday qualifier.
Not even close.
Like it's not even 2%.
So Butterbean, we know that you're a guy that runs hot and cold on the course, and it can help you out when need be. Why don't you give us a great example of one of your highs, one of your hots, either something you did on a particular shot or throughout an entire round where the Butterbean was grooving and everyone needed to see what he was all about?
A couple of my highs are, I've closed out 2 of my professional wins on mini tours in Florida. I birdied 6 of the last 9 holes to win by 4. So that was pretty fun. Um, you know, I've taken solo 4th position in the Puerto Rico Island Championship to shoot 1 under and some, 30, 35 mile an hour winds playing like 6,900 and ended up losing really by just a couple missed putts to my boy Chris Nito, fellow Puerto Rican playing in Latin America right now. He pulled off a good tournament that kind of kickstarted him and got him out there. And lows, right? Oh man, mini tour life. People don't get it. You're gambling for $20, $100. You're selling golf clubs on the side. I sold my F-250 diesel truck to stay here. I've sold countless things just to be able to stay in the game and to be able to have a chance, And so I think that's what it takes. I think giving it all, right? The ultimate sacrifice. Everything for that is kind of how you got to get there.
That's an all-in immersion for sure. Like if you don't go all in, you got no chance, right? Tell us a little bit about how it is grinding out on the mini tours. Are you sleeping in your car? Are you checking into the craziest little dumpy hotels that you can find, or just finding cheap Airbnbs? Or
I think it really depends on if the tournament's sponsored or not, right? Like if it's sponsored, right, you're getting a hotel and you're like living kind of fat. You're like, I don't have to eat McDonald's and sleep in the car tonight, It's like but realistically, like the tournament Reid and I played, dude, I drove 9.5 hours the day before, didn't even get to see the course, hopped out, played with Reid, put together, honestly, after the last 5 holes, a semi-decent round, like three under, something like that after that, maybe 4. And then literally hopped right back in my car, drove 9.5 hours back to Florida, slept in my car at the rest station for like 3 hours until you're just so uncomfortable you can't move, right? And you're just like, you know what? Sun's up, time to go. And I've had to do that a couple different times. And it's I think that's just part of the journey. And it's kind of crazy, you see some people that get love, right? And some people are getting a lot of love and you play with them on a regular, and you just got to know that love's coming down the pipeline for you here soon.
yeah, that's really tough to do. Go out there and shoot like a career round basically in order to make it through these money qualifiers.
Yep.
After you've had no sleep, you've been driving all night. That's extremely difficult. I think I kind of am getting a little bit a sense of what you meant by the PGA Tour. There's so much talent, right, in the game of golf.
Yeah.
The fields are infinitely deep. And why is the PGA Tour such a small, it's 125 guys, like you were saying. That's such a small population of how many amazing golfers there are out there. And like you're saying, there's guys on the mini tours who can beat guys on the PGA Tour because the skill level difference is so razor thin between
It is.
those two tours, which is incredible to think about. You think about other sports, the NFL, the NBA. It's pretty obvious that the college players can't really hang with the NBA players. It's pretty obvious that most of even like the Euro League of basketball, you get a couple guys that come over to the NBA, but not teams or anything like that. You brought a whole team over here, they'd get wiped. But with golf, it's so different. You guys can shoot just as low as any of those top guys on tour. So I think I kind of understand what you're saying there. I think more players need to be on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, definitely. Or at least have, some more tours for people to reside on, right? Like, cause it's, if you just had a couple more tours, like I was even telling Reid, a little East tour and a West tour, and that feeds into the Corn Ferry or that feeds into Canada or something like that. And it'd be at least a place where you could house, just call it the ultimate mini tour, right? Like it's, maybe it's only 15 grand number or, top spot, but at least they're giving you starts, every week to actually get better, actually play under the gun, actually, make a check and get it down the road and be able to chase the dream and make a living at it. Cause, the top 1% of the 1% is getting paid. whenever the remainder of, you know, the 99%, I mean, day in and day out can hang right there next to them almost every single week, you know? So that's just one, you know, but that's my opinion, and it doesn't really matter to them.
If you look at the PGA Tour, and I'm not saying they're all about money because they've done a good job, you know, changing stuff for the better and starting to anyway. But like if you had, as you say, let's call it an east half of America and west half of America mini tour for the PGA that fed into something.
Yeah.
It's only more income. I mean, at the end of the day, it's only more income for them too. I mean, you know, if you structure it right, and it only brings and makes the talent better that's coming through the program, I'll call it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, why wouldn't you try to keep feeding it down as far as you can and creating a pipeline that just keeps producing and keeps producing? And especially now with the whole live thing going on, I mean, if you want to make yourself dominant, make yourself different.
No doubt. I mean, you know, I grew up, like I said, in South Bend, Indiana, and, you know, we had, growing up, it was the Diamondbacks organization, but it's their single A, it's their farm team, it's their single A team, right? And it was just as much fun to go watch those boys play on a Friday night and get a hot dog or some popcorn, right? And go and support, you know, as it was to go to, you know, Wrigley Field, you know? So it's like, give the boys some love. Like, that's all we're asking for out here. Like, just don't be so snobby and act like you don't know us, you know? Like,
there needs to be some sort of farm system to get guys notice and get them moving up and going through. So you've obviously been in some unique situations and some interesting golf tournaments. Is there something that sticks out in your mind that people wouldn't even believe happened to you at a golf course or in a tournament that doesn't get mainstream publicity? Because really, you know, most people only hear about the PGA Tour and a little bit with the European Tour, but that's it.
oh man, that's a good one, I think, you know?
No fans yelling at you, no people drinking while playing.
You know what? I'll give a shout out. There's some fun things, right, that happened here in Florida on the, let's just say, the Florida Pro Tour. They have what's commonly known amongst all of us, right, as the Trailer Park Open. And it is the Wildwood Open, and it's been going on for quite some time. But you know what? They come out and they give hella support for the young guys. I mean, this whole community comes out for everybody. I mean, to the point where on number 3, you're walking down the fairway, right? And dude's got a barbecue going. He's like, yo, you want some barbecue sandwiches? And like, you know, you're loading up on free like barbecue sandwiches, you know. And they're all in their old school club car, you know, with their, you know, spinners on, and they're all lining the fairways and the, you know, and clapping and hooting and hollering. It's just really fun. You know, that's probably one of the best like mini tours experiences, at least down here, that you can do. You know, playing wise, you know, I've had a lot of close calls, right? You know, like probably one of the biggest ones, you know, Q School for Latin America this year, November, coming down right on the wire. I'm like right on the cut line for conditional status. And I'm coming down, and I just didn't play very good the first 2 days. Shot like 74 or something like that. And shot even par the third day. And I'm like right at like 1 or 2 under, just made a couple birdies, and I'm coming down the stretch, make triple on like the 68th hole. I'm like, come on, you know? And then I proceed, right? I'm losing it. I'm down the 70th fairway. I'm absolutely losing my mind. I mean, I'm like, because I know I'm right on the cut line, you know what I mean? It's so close to, you know, at least getting it across the board at least halfway. And we go to, I make par there at Mission Inn, number 7. We go to number 8, par 3. Hit it in the bunker, 200-yard par 3, playing dead in the wind. Hit it in the bunker on a tight pin, hole out from the bunker for birdie. I'm like, you know what, boys? There might still be a chance. Number 9's drivable. Get it down there, hit it down there just in front of the bunker, right-hand side, like I said, at Mission Inn, and hit this beautiful chip shot. I said, land it right there, kid, and let it just roll in. It rolled all the way, hit the center pin, and stayed on the lip.
Oh
man.
I would have missed. I missed by 2. If that would have fallen and one guy would have shot one worse, I would have been like grandfathered in to the whole to at least the conditional status top, 30 whatever percent. Yeah, that was a tough one.
I always say some days are worse than others, but I always make a joke out of it. And I say, hey, if I had a ruler and I had 2 inches of a ruler today, I would have shot 62. You put a quarter inch here on a putt, or a 16th of an inch on a lip, or a quarter inch out of bounds, or a quarter inch in the hazard, or I miss flying that bunker by 2 inches, or whatever. So I always say if I had 8 inches today, or if I had a foot today, or if I had a Subway foot long today, I might have shot 62. But it's amazing how you can look back and just see, like, if you play decent or good or whatever, and you end up missing a tournament by a couple, or missing a win by a couple, or missing a cut by a couple, whatever it is, it's so easy to go back and say, well, that one could have gone in, or that shot, if I just hit it and make a different decision and go with it from there. It's so situational. I don't think people realize how cutthroat it is.
They have no idea. I mean, if you wanted to look at anything, right, look at Sam Burns' performance in the major. Dude shot like 81, 82, okay? Kid's top 50 in the world, okay? Goes the next week and is like damn near about to win the tournament. Okay, and you're going to tell me, right? Like, so if you shoot 75, you would have still beat that kid. You know what I mean? But like, he's playing in a major championship, obviously under tons of stress, but still, they don't ever show you, like the PGA Tour shows you, right? Like the top 15% of all the shots. It's never the kid that hit it way right and then hit it over the green and then scrambled it up and down for a par, and he's just getting it by shooting, 69 today, and grinded it out like a Lanto Griffin type boy. You know what I mean? Like, go out there and get it out the dirt,
We lost to Lanto when I was caddying for Hubbard by 1 in Houston.
Dude, the scrapper, man. I played many a tournament, moonlight events, Orlando, Florida. Lanto Griffin shows up on the tee box. I'm like, bro, the PGA Tour ain't paying you enough, right? You need to come grab my $650 for the day. Like, what are you doing, homie?
Dang, that's brutal.
I watched him on I guess it'd be the 69th hole of the Houston Open in 2020, COVID year. I'm sorry, it was 2019. It's fall of 2019. I watched him in the Houston Open. We were on the 69th hole. Sorry, 70th hole. And watched him can about a 70-footer on us to take a one-shot lead. So that's the last memory I have of Lanto Griffin. Great dude, though. And I know right after he won that golf tournament, he went and bought his mom a new Subaru. She had needed a new car for a long time. Went and bought her a Subaru. There was a whole article on it and whatnot. But, yeah, great dude.
Who are some of those other guys out there, Butterbean, that you think we should highlight? We should get to know a little better.
There's a couple boys coming down the pipeline, I mean, like Austin Hitt doing big things down in Latin America, missed it by one this week, missed it by one last week. He's a Florida boy right here playing mini tours. Great kid. Gabe Lynch, Latin America, been playing real strong. I think, you need to be on the lookout for Daniel Augustus. Off the APGA tour. Dude's doing big things. Kids, I played with them the other day at Black Bear in Orlando, and dude striped it. And I mean, it's like, when you play with a guy and it's like every shot is just working into the cup, getting closer and closer, and if it doesn't make it, it's, not missing by much. Kid's playing really good right now. Therethere's a couple, Joe Zawoski, another big boy, Northern kid. It's so deep. I could go on to 45 different guys. They're all great, and they're all, shooting 5 under almost every single day.
Well, there's officially only one name that everyone needs to remember now, and that is Butterbean Orlando Merced. He is the Bunkertown golfer. Everyone, make sure you follow him and follow his journey on what he's going to do. We're really pulling for you, bud. It was great to chat with you. We appreciate you taking the time. We know you're grinding it out with the bean sprouts all day today, getting out on the course too. So, hey, best of luck to you. If there's anything you ever need from us, let us know, and we'll let our fans know too to help you out. So, we're really pulling for you, bud. Thank you.
Thank you, boys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything, and best of luck. I'll be up in Indiana here in a little bit, and I plan to come out and play some golf with you boys in Ohio. So let's get after it and we'll shoot some content.
Yeah, bud. Come out and play some golf. We'll rip it up.
Thanks so much to the Bean for a great chat. Now it's time to get into what many are calling the fifth major on the PGA Tour, at least maybe to us in Canada. It's the Canadian Open. The PGA Tour heads to Oakdale Country Club, where some of the game's best tee it up. Rory McIlroy, coming off a disappointing Sunday at the Memorial, will look to make it 3 in a row in Canada. Reid?
You know, I hear why you're calling it the fifth major, Stark. It's probably because the Stanley Cup's going on right now and there is no Canadian team to root for.
That's correct.
You know, the first, what are we at, 30 years now? Something like that?
30 on the dot.
30 on the dot.
30 years since the Canadian teams won the Stanley Cup.
Montreal Canadiens, 1993.
Yep.
Should have been Montreal Canadiens versus Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup, but I digress. There was a controversy. Reid, tell us about the course preview at Oakdale.
Oakdale Golf and Country Club, looking to play about 7,000 yards, give or take. You know, I don't know what kind of tees they have. Sometimes they add tees for PGA Tour events. And being that this tournament is one of the very few that changes year to year unless a contract has changed. I think there's two besides the majors that change year to year. Course to course, you know, like I said, unless you're talking about like a 3-year contract at the Valspar that's coming to an end or whatever. Oakdale Golf and Country Club, 15 miles approximately from downtown Toronto. Course designers are Stanley Thompson and Robbie Robinson. Can't say I'm very familiar with them, as they probably haven't produced a whole lot of courses, but obviously this is a good one. Tough front nine. It sounded like you need to hold it together. Not going to be a lot of birdies made on the front nine, or maybe, you know, some potential for bogeys, as it sounds, easy bogeys. Second shot golf course, small greens being the major defense. So you're going to want a guy who, again, controls their numbers very well. Maybe a high ball hitter if it's not windy. That way, you know, kind of drop it on a dime where they want. Those guys are so good at controlling their spin that, you know, even someone with a high flight can sit it in there pretty good. Not very long golf course. Some of the fairways are heavily sloped. Going to get some uneven lies, you know, ball above your feet, ball below your feet. You know, and there's some tricky slopes on the greens. From what I hear, you're going to have a lot of big breaking putts. So it's going to be important to have a caddy that is going to, as we were just talking about, do their work before time, and kind of be able to guide you around to the spots below the pins. Being below the pins here sounds like it's going to be very crucial. Could make a big difference. Bent grass fairways and greens. There is some PO in the greens I was reading, so that means later in the day the PO should pop out a little bit, making the surface a little more bumpy for the afternoon rounds. So as we all know, for those who play in PO, it can make a difference. Those little flower buds start sprouting out. You know, poppers of the golf ball, they call them. Guys that hit
Little bean sprouts.
called bean sprouts. Bean sprouts are coming out of the ground. You know, poppers of the golf ball. So guys who hit up on the golf ball tend to, that's with the putting stroke, I should say, tend to putt well on PO. Like I said, this isn't full PO. It's mainly bent with some PO in it. As I was reading,
You never go full PO.
yeah, you can't go full PO, but you can go more PO than little PO. You know what I mean? So that reminds me of Teletubbies back in the day. Polo, Doe, and Toe, or whatever his name was. So, yeah, I mean, this golf course, I don't think it's going to be that hard. I mean, you can only make it so hard for these guys. And if it's, I mean, we just saw the Memorial this week, but we always know that play is a little tougher. A tournament like the Canadian Open, I would expect a golf course to be hard and be penalizing, but in the same sense, if you're hitting it good enough, I think it's going to be reasonable to shoot 4 or 5 a day. I would say 16 to 18 under is my guess. Probably go on the lower end of that just because 4 a day is still pretty solid. But I would say 16 under, and you're looking at someone who doesn't need to hit it very far, has good hands around the green, and controls their numbers with the irons. That's what you're looking at this week. I think from the sounds of it, these greens, if you can get it below the hole, putting below the hole is a lot easier, and so I think that if you get a guy who's a good iron striker, they don't need to be the best putter in the world to win here, just because uphill putts, you can be a little more aggressive and they're not so touchy, if you will. But I think you're looking at someone maybe 100th in the world that could win.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some great storylines going in here. First time Oakdale has hosted the Canadian Open, 117 years for this event, 37th different course played on. We got 20 Canadians in the field, which is always big news up here north of the border. We got Connors, Hughes, Pendrith, Hadwin, Svensson, to name a few. McIlroy, we mentioned, looking to win 3 in a row, kind of really brought this tournament back to life the last couple years. So I wanted to ask you two, as guys south of the border, do you think this event should be a designated event? It is a national open. There's not many of them out there. So why not put this in a good slot somewhere, maybe away from a major, not between a designated event and a major? Give it its own spot, make it a designated event. It is a national open. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I love that. I definitely agree. I think it should be a designated event. Whether it needs to change, it's a lineup in the schedule. Obviously the RBC Heritage was right after the Masters, so you get some of these weird schedule nuances with kind of the condensed schedule that the PGA Tour is rolling out. But I definitely think it deserves some more credit. It's got a lot of good names this week, and in the past it usually does as well. I'm a big advocate for having one designated event kind of like in different international spots. So you're going to have one in Canada. I would have one in Australia. I would have one in Japan. I would have one in South America, and throw one over in Europe as well. There needs to be a more global outreach from the PGA Tour to help go, especially like Australia and Japan. Like, why aren't we? Those are huge golf countries. They love it, and it would do incredibly over there. So send the best players in the world over there and give them a show. So yeah, Canada, the Canadian Open totally should be a designated event.
My feel on these designated events, and like it or leave it, but part of the reason, or part of the benefit of playing well on the PGA Tour, is being able to pick your schedule. Being able to say, I don't like this golf course, I'm going to go to this tournament because it's suited for me. That's how you got there. So why are they forcing you to change how you got there? I'm personally not the biggest fan of all these designated events. That being said, a national open does make sense to be one if they're going to put them in place. I do know that these designated events will draw bigger fields, and they'll make it better for sponsors and for viewership and all that kind of stuff. But just my feel on it is, everyone's different. Everyone has different games. Everyone wants to go play at different places. And obviously there's the popular ones, there's the majors and the players and Bay Hill and all that crap. But outside of the big tournaments, there's still tournaments as like, let's go to the Farmers at Torrey Pines. Some people love going to Torrey Pines. My player, when I was on the PGA Tour, absolutely hated Torrey Pines, so we never went. I do know there's a rule. I think it's 3 and 4, or one out of 4, maybe it's called, or 1 out of 3, where you have to play, or I don't know where it's at now with these new changes, but you used to have to play each event once every 3 years, I think it was, which I think was great. I mean, now you're still rolling people into those events. I mean, maybe they don't want to go every year, but 1 out of 3, let's call it 1 out of 3 years. I think it is, might be 1 out of 4. Now you're getting people to go up there, and maybe they actually like it. Maybe they, take to it a little bit. I don't know. It's this whole schedule change and beef with Liv and trying to arm wrestle, and it's just going too far for me. It's not basic game of golf. Go and compete. Pick your schedule. Okay, I need more points. I'm gonna go play more events. I just won 3 in a row. I can take 2 weeks off because I don't like those golf courses. Whatever it is. I mean, let a guy, you got personal contractors in the world, right? They make their own schedule. They do just fine. Essentially, I mean, I know technically the golfers work for the PGA Tour because they're playing on the PGA Tour, but you get my drift there. They got there picking how to get there. There's multiple avenues. So why not let them get as high in the world as they want to be with choosing how they want to get there?
Yeah, if you don't want to go play a designated event, fine. You're going to miss out on a favorable paycheck, but
Right.
you still should be able to choose that, I guess.
100%. Maybe those designated events are just elevated purses with higher benefits. And if you don't want to go, that's your choice.
Yeah, and I can tell you locally here, people don't really care. We just want good golfers to come up and play our courses and be in our tournament. We want some Canadians in the mix, and we want a good leaderboard like we've had the last couple of years.
Speaking of Stark, I want to ping you a little on. Do you see any sneaky Canadians popping up on the leaderboard this week?
Why don't we get right into it right now? What a transition. I'll even lead it off if you want my picks first. I am red hot. On our picks on last week, I had Viktor Hovland in the top 10. Then Reid bashed Viktor Hovland terribly, and I immediately put money on him to win the tournament, and he did. I loved that. So let's go with my picks first, Nolan, if you don't mind, for this week. And as the only Canadian on the show this week without Zach being here, I'm playing the hits. I'm playing the hits this week, baby. I'm going Rory top 5
Okay.
plus 110.
Oh,
Yeah, he's gonna be there. We know he's gonna be there. He
I don't
loves
know.
playing in Canada. Yeah, he's gonna get a cottage in Muskoka soon. You know he's gonna be rocking a Leaf jersey at the rink, the par 3 rink. So I'm going Rory top 5, and then it's just the classics. We got Mackenzie Hughes top 20 plus 320. We got Adam Hadwin top 10 plus 400. We got Corey Connors top 10 plus 180. And my winner this week, finally happening. We can't get to the Stanley Cup in 30 years, but we're getting a winner at the Canadian Open. Corey Connors to win the Canadian Open plus 1,600.
I love that. You're drinking the maple syrup, my guy. That's amazing. See, I was looking for maybe a sneaky, maybe Nick Taylor might sneak up on there or something. Pendrith, I don't know if Pendrith. Did you have him? I don't know. I don't know if he suits this course very well. But yeah, obviously Connors and Hadwin are great. This feels like this could be your guys' time. I think. I don't know when's the last time Canadians won this, but
If we count Brooke Henderson, she won the Canadian Open not too long ago.
there we go. Brooke holding it down. We'll get into the LPGA a little later because the LPGA was on fire this weekend. But yeah, I'll step into the box with some of my picks, and hey, I'm holding it down too. I'm flying the Canadian flag. I'll start with my Canadian pick of the week, and that is going a little crazy here, guys. Watch out, Mike Weir. My pick is for him to make the cut. I haven't found it yet. So all I have is the odds for a T40, which is plus 500. Little lefty Mike Weir. He's been having a steady little Champions Tour career. And, someone different's going to pop up. It's not, I don't know if it's, I think Connors is going to do great. But I think we're going to have a little fun with Mike Weir, like making the cut. That's going to be a great storyline out there this week.
Watch Mike Weir win.
That would be something else. Some of my other guys, and let me just first touch on your Rory pick. I don't like it at all. Rory hasn't been able to hit his wedges, and he's going to have a lot of wedges this week. He's probably going to be hitting a lot of 3-woods and having pitching wedges, 9-irons. If he's smart, he might just hit like 6-iron and have like an 8-iron into some of these greens or something like that. That's why I stray away from Rory a little bit, but the 3-peat would be a really cool thing. Wouldn't be surprised if he's there on Sunday, and just I'd love him to make that T5 so you get your money, but we'll see how well he does. Shane Lowry, I love this week. He's a ball striker. He's a grinder. He's at plus 105 for a T20. He's one of the top names out there. So not like incredibly great odds, but I think a T20 is pretty easy for a guy like his caliber. And then I'm going to dip into some Sam Bennett action, the amateur correct me if I'm wrong, it was a low am at the Masters. He is plus 200 for T40 this week. I'll see if he can hang with the boys. I'll put a little money on him. And then Reid, you might want to cover your ears here for this one, but I'm going with Mark Hubbard, T30 plus 200. I think it suits him well this week. He's not a long ball guy. He'll dial in those wedges nicely. And then my winner this week, I think a lot of European players are going to be doing well. And I am trying so hard to push this guy into the winner's circle. I'm going with Tommy Fleetwood at plus 2,000 to get the W. So those are my picks this week. We'll see how we do. I need to at least defend myself a little. You guys were getting on me last week and bagging on Nolan's terrible at making picks, and I did pretty good the week before. I had 2 hits, and let's just start tweeting out some of these picks we make and see how well the Bunkertown podcast is really doing for us. Because I think as a group, we're winning money for people.
We're making money.
So yeah, especially Stark. I mean, someone needs to just get a hotline on Stark because he throws on the winner like on Saturday, Sunday, and he's hit it 2 weeks in a row. So that's what we need the little inside circle on.
Hey, you guys talk about all these Canadians, and you don't even bring up the guy that was leading the goddamn players. I mean, a guy who was leading the biggest purse of the year, biggest, best field in the world, and you don't even talk about Adam Svensson. I'm shell-shocked. You guys better put some of your money on that.
Yeah.
Add it to my list. Top 10, Adam Svensson. All right, guys, another great week we just wrapped up. We're going to close it out with a few fan questions followed by our bogeyed plays of the week. Let's kick it off with a question by Mike Witcher, who asks, do we think Rose Zhang will be a needle mover on the LPGA?
Dude, it's not even a question. I watched more of, it's sad to say, but I watched more of that tournament than I did the Memorial.
That's not sad to say. That was riveting.
So I was talking, Sarah was down in South Carolina. The last time someone came in on the PGA Tour or the LPGA Tour and won in their first start was like 70 years ago. And to watch her almost give it away on 18, well, it was hard to watch, but man, she hit that shot in the second play. I believe it was the second playoff hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
To pretty tight, that hybrid or whatever.
A hybrid to like 6 feet. It was insane. Over a bunker, released it way back there. Chased it. Yeah, Rose Zhang, dude, watch out. 20 years old. Like, she's a phenom.
She will be the next. She'll be number one. I'm telling it right now. She'll be number one in the world by the end of the year.
End of the year. I like that.
Love it.
I like that a
Any
lot.
majors? You lock her up for a major?
I'll say she'll contend. I'm not going to say she'll win, but I'll say she'll contend. The major's a little different. You get a first time, major player that's walking down trying to win a major. It's a little different. I'm not saying she can't, but I think that there will be nerves, even though she knows she's good, but she's very humble, but you can tell she knows she's good. And there's a difference in knowing that you're one of the best players in the world, or maybe the best player in the world at 20 years old, and strutting it. Like, strutting it obviously is, in my opinion, on the bad end, but she's very, very just confident, very calm. You never see her move too fast. She goes through the same routine, makes the decisions in the same amount of time. If she's not comfortable over a shot, she'll step off and reset. It's impressive to watch.
She's very impressive, dude. You sent us a little scorecard peekaboo today, Reid, and you were on an absolute heater on your back nine, 4 birdies and an eagle. Check out this heater Rose Zhang has been on in her last 12 stroke play events. A win, T12, win, Augusta National Women's Amateur, 5th, wins the NCAAs, and then wins her first professional start on the LPGA Tour. The sky's the limit for this woman. She is going places. She's very cool, very calm, very collected. She's even kind of like got this good personality around her. Like Stanford grad, Tiger loves her. She's got all the good vibes around. She's breaking Tiger's records at Stanford. I mean, what's not to love it? She's got her name's Rose. You can just tweet out the little rose emoji. Like it's perfect. It's a match made in heaven. LPGA golf is gonna love her, and I hope the world loves her too.
Yeah, agree.
Dude, she jumped to 62nd in the world after her first professional event.
Also heard she made like 400 grand for winning, but she's got to skip the next event because she has to move out of her dorm at Stanford. I think she can pay someone to help her get out of that one. Let's move on to the second question. This one's from Tara Chan. She asks, do we think any Canadian golfers will find their way to live? And if so, who would be most likely? I'll go first on this one. Yes, of course. What, you don't think Canadians like money and like a little bit of time off? I mean, the dollars all work out the same. Yeah, it's going to happen. Who, I can't predict that. That's a tough one. I'm not calling out any of the players. I'm sure some of the top ones have been approached. I'm sure Corey Connors have been approached and those guys. There's a big President's Cup coming up in 2014 in Montreal. So those guys are going to want to play in that, play for Mike Weir as their captain. So I would say those big names wouldn't be leaving before that, but eventually, yeah, there'll be some Canadians on the Live Tour.
Yeah, it's a great call. They want to be on that Mike Weir's team for sure, and it's gonna be hard to make a President's Cup team without being on the PGA Tour right now. Obviously, we've talked about a little bit. Brooks kind of dominating the majors. He's gonna play his way into the American side, but yeah, it's gonna be hard if you're one of these Canadian guys to play your way in if you're not out here every week. So, like you said, I mean, Connors is what, 31. Maybe he gets a little paycheck. He's kind of in the prime of his career, so I could potentially see him going, but maybe there's some young guys coming up the ranks on the Canadian side, in the collegiate levels or wherever, that might want to jump straight there if they're doing good enough to get a couple $1 million and be kind of set.
Stark, you said something there that kind of sparked my interest. You said Canadians love money too. Well, yeah, it's so damn expensive up there. Sure, they sure as shit love money. Yeah, I mean, I think that's somewhat, I wouldn't call it a silly question, but if someone came to you and offered you $10 million, I mean, I don't care if you don't like Live. You suck it up for 3 years and go make $10 million a year, whatever it is, or whatever the number they're offering you, and I mean, if you want to keep playing golf, go ahead. But I mean, if you're 35 years old and you're planning to, you're not having a crazy good career, but a steady, solid career, and you want to wrap it up by the time you're 40, why wouldn't you?
And in my lifetime, this is the most, how do I say this? This is the most good Canadian golfers we've had on the PGA Tour right now. I mean, we've named 4 or 5 in the last 20 minutes or so here. And it's only going to increase because golf's massive here. We got good athletes and we're playing more and a lot more guys going south to play. So, yeah, there'll be some good golfers coming up. Last question. Corey Cedar says, with designated events paying out so much in prize money and being worth significantly more, do we think we'll see more players playing less events, or do we think players' schedules will stay the same?
Man, I think we're going to see a little bit, pretty much the same thing. Right? Like there's more money out there, so they're going to want to go to these events. Like we've been saying, people like money. Some of the top players, we've already seen Rory. Obviously Rory's money bag's deep, and he essentially forgone or lost out on some bonuses because he's skipping too many of these designated events. I don't think we're going to see many guys do that. So I think you're really going to see pretty much the same schedule out of these guys. It's always kind of been the same kind of trend that happens where the more dominant or more in their prime they kind of single out certain events and tweak their schedules a little more the longer into their career they get. And you see these younger guys just trying to play as much as they can. So I don't really see much changing, if at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might see some of the younger guys who are higher ranked more so go into a lot of these events just because it's a little more appealing when you're 25 years old, 24 years old, and guaranteed so much money or whatever. But the older guys, the more experienced guys, the guys who have seen most of the golf courses, I think they're just going to pick a schedule to what they want to play and what they play best. I mean, at the end of the day, the guys who have made 20 million in earnings and another 50 million off endorsements or whatever it is, missing one of these isn't the end of the world. And if it means another week with their family and then they get to go play a golf course they love and play well at, I don't think that's going to be out of the question. Now, will you get some guys who will go to every one of them just because of the dollar amount and the purse size and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But I think you'll see some people feed out of them over time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to something you said a little bit earlier, Reid, about your touring pro deciding I don't want to play Torrey Pines. Well, I'm sure some of these guys are going to say, I hate that course, but man, there's a lot of person, a lot of money there. I might as well go play it. So it'll be some interesting decisions. You're right. It'll be interesting to follow. Now let's move on to our bogeyed plays of the week. We're going to start with you, Nolan. You got a great one involving our boy Hideki.
I mean, the dude's a Masters champion. He's a top 20 player in the world, obviously. He's got loads of talent. And he was there, come Friday. He was atop the leaderboard. And if you just saw the tournament Friday and then you didn't watch all weekend and you checked in on who won the tournament and you looked at the leaderboard and you're like, what did Matsuyama get hurt or something? Like, what happened to him? He shot +7 over the weekend to fall from 7 under to even par for the week. Just an abysmal weekend. Crumbled under pressure. I don't know what was getting into him. He couldn't find anything. It seemed like whatever wrong could go wrong would go wrong for Matsuyama. And that's my bogey of the week, dude. Just a piss poor performance on the weekend from a guy that, this podcast has been pro Matsuyama a lot. So I think he'll figure it out. Maybe this year is going to be a little rough for him. So maybe stay clear of Matsuyama until he starts showing some good form. But yeah, what did you see out there, Stark?
I mean, I kind of mentioned before, he looked like he just takes so much longer over the ball. I don't know if it's causing a lot of slow play and causing him to think a little too much and make mistakes. But yeah, I was following him closely all weekend and was shocked that he had such a bad Saturday and Sunday. Now, Reid, what's your bogeyed of the week?
Well, I was struggling with one, but I think you made it clear, Stark. I think you made it clear. Last week, I took Fowler to win quicker than Hovland, and I got shot down in about less than 6 days.
Big Hovland heard you.
He's a listener. That we know he's a fan.
Bulletin board material.
You know what? I'll say this. I'm not mad at it because I love Viktor. I love the way he is with the fans. I love the way he is with the media. I know Viktor. We played with him in Boston when I was caddying and watched him shoot 29 on the front 9, easiest 29 I've ever seen. Oof. Made a deuce on a par 4, hit it to about 4 feet off the tee. No, I mean, that's my bogey of the week. I mean, dude, come on, Reid. Use your brain. Viktor's going to win before Fowler.
Dude, he had a fun little interaction with Jack post-tournament. Did you guys see all that?
Yeah, yep. I will say that Fowler is going to win soon. He's going to win soon. It's just, will it be a big event? Maybe not. But to your point about, I wanted to say something about Hideki, Nolan. If you look at majors over the past years, there's a lot of majors that have been played. Not all of them, but majors are obviously going to be tough, but there's been some of them that have been won at far more than 7 under par. PGA Championships, British Opens sometimes.
Masters. Yeah.
Masters sometimes. I think there was a U.S. Open recently that played really soft. Man, not Winged Foot, but anyway, a few years back.
Was that the Morikawa one?
Yes, that was Harding Park. That was a TPC. PGA.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
My point being is you get a golf course like Muirfield that's playing very firm, very hard, very fast, and you're mishitting it. Dude, it's going to take you by the balls and just throw you against the wall. I mean, it's gonna make an even par round turn into 76, 77 real fast. So, I mean, maybe Hideki's not that far off. Maybe he just hit a couple squirrely shots that kind of got away from him. I mean, it's not hard to do, especially on a golf course like that. The guy still can shoot 62 at any moment.
Should we try out this little, I don't know what we're going to call it, a jinx or something, on Fowler for Reid? Do we want to throw someone else up against Fowler right now and see if they win this week at the Canadian? Fowler and Connors.
Fowler and Hideki.
We'll be following them closely, but you're speaking of the course there, and that leads me to my bogeyed play of the week as we're talking about the course. And we've talked a little bit about this guy, Jack, sitting in the booth there. And my bogeyed of the week was, as we talked about, that 16th hole. It was so challenging. Guys were having a brutal time with it. Saturday, the pin's in the right corner. They can't cut it. They can't go at it. They can't draw. What are they going to do? They just end up putting it in the bunker. And Jason Day, a local boy, kind of, living in Ohio, puts it straight into the bunker and then on the telecast as clearly as possible says, "This hole sucks." Well, Jack Nicklaus is sitting in the booth listening to him, and his comments after were, "Ooh, I guess Jason doesn't like this hole. We might have to make some changes." I bet you after the round, just like any coach in football or basketball, Jack marched down to the clubhouse, gave a full Riemann right to Jason Day. "How dare you say that about my course? I put it like that to challenge you guys." He probably ripped the shit out of him, and I feel bad because Jason Day probably walked away with his tail between his legs, because what are you going to say to the guy who's won the most majors ever? That's my bogey of the day, Jason Day making a silly comment that was caught in a hot mic.
Yeah, man. I love the hot mics, though. If keep the hot mics coming, because it's great content.
At least he speaks his mind. It's better than someone who hides it and doesn't say shit, and then it comes out of the woodworks and it's like so behind the wall.
I think all the PGA Tour players were applauding Jason Day. I think newsflash, Jack, everyone hated 16 this week. So
Exactly. On this week's show, we talked about Hovland's playoff victory at the Memorial. We previewed the Canadian Open with Rory McIlroy looking to be the first one ever to win an event 3 consecutive times. And we had a legend of a guest, Butterbean, on the show talking about his interesting, to say the least, golf career. Lastly, we close things out with some fan questions and our bogeyed plays of the week. And as always, thank you guys for listening. I want to thank Nolan, Reid, and special thanks to Butterbean. Also, thanks to our guy Kevin working hard behind the scenes to get us sounding our best. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bunker Township, and let's have ourselves a week.
That's tough. It's just, that is brutal. Bunker would be an advantage.